Nos autem gloriari apportatum cruce Domini nostri Iesu Christi, in quo est salus vita et resurrectio nostra, per quem salvati et liberati sumus. Deus misereatur nostri et benedicat nobis, illuminat vultum suum super nos et misereatur nostri. Nos autem gloriari apportatum cruce Domini nostri Iesu Christi, in quo est salus vita et resurrectio nostra, per quem salvati et liberati sumus. Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Christe eleison, Christe eleison, Christe eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison. Dominus vobiscum et cum spiritu tuo. Oremus. Omnipotens sempiterni Deus, da nobis ita dominici passionis sacramenta peratere, ut indulgentiam percipere veream. Per eum Dominum nostrum Iesum Christum Filium Tuum, qui tecum vivit et regnat in unitatis Spiritus Sancti Deus, per omnia saecula saeculorum. Amen. Lectio Ieremiae Prophete. A reading from the prophet Jeremiah. In those days Jeremiah said, I knew it because the Lord informed me. At that time you, O Lord, showed me their doings. Yet I, like a trusting lamb led to slaughter, had not realized that they were hatching plots against me. Let us destroy the tree in its vigor. Let us cut him off from the land of the living, so that his name will be spoken no more. But you, Lord of hosts, O just judge, searcher of mind and heart, let me witness the vengeance you take on them, for to you I have entrusted my cause, O Lord our God. Deo gratias. Ego autem mihi molesti esset induebam me cilicio, et humiliabam in unio animam meam et ratio mea in sine meo convertetur. Judica Domine nocentes me, expunia impugnatis me, apprehende anca et scutum, et exorgi natutorium mihi. Passio Domini nostri Iesu Christi, secundum Marcum. The Passion of our Lord Jesus Christ according to Mark. At that time, Jesus and his disciples went to a place named Gethsemane. Sit down here while I pray, he said to his disciples. But he took along with him Peter and James and John. Then he began to suffer shock and distress, so he said to them, My heart is near breaking with sorrow. Remain here and stay awake. He advanced a little and fell to the ground, praying that if it were possible, this hour might pass him by. And he kept saying, Abba, O Father, for you everything is possible. Take this cup away from me, but it must be what you wish, not what I do. When he returned, he found them asleep. He said to Peter, Simon, what, you are asleep? So you could not stay awake for even 1 hour? Stay awake and pray that you may not be subjected to the trial. The spirit may be eager, but human nature is weak. Going back again, he began to pray in the same words. One Once again he found them asleep on his return, for they could not keep their eyes open. They did not know what to say to him. And he returned the third time and said to them, "Still asleep? Still enjoying your rest? Enough of this. The hour has arrived. See, the Son of Man is being handed over into the power of evil men. Get up, let us be on our way. Look, my betrayer is here." Just then, while he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, made his appearance, accompanied by a crowd with swords and clubs, sent from the chief priests, the scribes, and the elders. Now his betrayer had arranged to give them a signal, saying, "The man I shall kiss is the one. Arrest him, and with every precaution lead him away." And immediately he went over to him. "Rabbi," he said, and kissed him. Then they laid hands on him and arrested him. But one of the bystanders, drawing his sword, struck the high priest's slave and cut off his earlobe. Then, addressing them, Jesus said, "You have come out to seize me, armed with swords and clubs, as if against a bandit. Daily I was within your reach, teaching in the temple precincts. Yet you never arrested me. But now, in order that the scriptures might be fulfilled." Then all of them deserted him and fled. There was a young man following him with only a sheet wrapped around him. As they seized him, he dropped the sheet and ran away naked. So they led Jesus off to the high priest. Then all the chief priests, the elders, and the scribes assembled. Peter followed him at a distance right into the high priest's, where he found a seat within the temple with the temple police and was warming himself at the blaze of fire. The chief priests, with the whole Sanhedrin, were busy trying to obtain testimony against Jesus in order to put him to death, but they were unable to discover any. Many testified falsely against him, but their testimony did not agree. Some, for instance, took the stand and testified falsely, alleging, "We heard him declare, 'I will destroy the sanctuary made by human hands, and in 3 days I will construct another not made by human hands.' Even so, their testimony did not agree. The high priest rose to his feet before the court and began to interrogate Jesus. 'Have you no answer to what these men testify against you?' But Jesus remained silent, making no reply. Once again, the high priest interrogated him. 'Are you the Messiah, the Son of the Blessed One?' Then Jesus answered, 'I am. And you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of the power and coming with the clouds of heaven.' Then the high priest rose, tore his robes, and declared, 'What further need do we have of witnesses? You have heard the blasphemy. What is your opinion?' All of them found him guilty and deserving of death, and some of them began to spit on him. They blindfolded him and hit him, saying, 'Play the prophet,' while the temple police slapped him. And while Peter was down in the courtyard, one of the servant girls of the high priest came along. When she noticed Peter warming himself, she looked at him and said, 'You too were with Jesus of Nazareth.' But he denied it. 'I do not know what you are talking about. I don't understand.' Then he went out into the gateway, and a cock crowed. The servant girl, keeping an eye on him, started again to tell the bystanders, 'This man is one of them.' Again he denied it. A little while later, the bystanders said to Peter again, 'Obviously you were one of them. Why, after all, you were a Galilean.' So he began to curse and swear, 'I do not even know that fellow you're talking about.' Just then, a cock crowed for the second time, Peter recalled the prediction Jesus had made to him. Before the cock can crow twice, you will 3 times disown me. He broke down and began to weep. As soon as it was daybreak, the chief priests with the elders and scribes, that is, the whole Sanhedrin, reached a decision. They bound Jesus and led him away and handed him over to Pilate. Pilate interrogated him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" "As you say," he replied. The chief priests, however, brought many accusations against him. Pilate again interrogated him. "Surely you have some answer. Look how many accusations they are leveling against you." But Jesus made no further answer, much to Pilate's surprise. Now on the occasion of the festival, he would release for them one prisoner, the man they would ask for. There was a prisoner named Barabbas, jailed along with the revolutionaries who had committed murder in the uprising. When the crowd came up to press their demand that he honor the custom, Pilate rejoiced. "Do you wish me to release for you the king of the Jews?" He was aware, of course, that it was out of jealousy that the chief priests had handed him over. Meanwhile, the chief priests incited the crowd to have him release Barabbas instead. Pilate again asked them, "Then what am I to do with the man you call the king of the Jews?" They shouted back, "Crucify him." But Pilate protested. Why, what crime has he committed? They only shouted the louder, "Crucify him." So Pilate, desiring to satisfy the crowd, released Barabbas to them, and after scourging Jesus, he handed him over to be crucified. Now the soldiers led him away into the hall known as the Praetorium, and they called together the whole cohort. They dressed him up in royal purple, weaving a crown of thorns. They put it on him. They began to salute him, "All hail, King of the Jews." They kept striking him on the head with a reed and spitting at him. Genuflecting before him, they pretended to pay him homage. Then, when they had finished mocking him, they stripped him of the purple, dressed him in his own clothes, and led him out to crucify him. To carry the cross, they pressed into service a passerby, Simon the Cyrenian, who was coming in from the farm, the father of Alexander and Rufus. When they brought Jesus to the place of Golgotha, which means skull place, they tried to give him wine drunk with myrrh, but he did not take it. They crucified him and divided up his garments by rolling dice for them to see what each should take. It was about 9 in the morning when they crucified him, and the inscription proclaiming his offense read, "The King of the Jews." With him they crucified 2 bandits, one at his right and one at his left. People going by kept insulting him, wagging their heads and saying, "Ha! So you were going to destroy the sanctuary and rebuild it in 3 days. Now save yourself by coming down off that cross." The chief priests and the scribes also joined in. "Other men he saved," they jeered to one another. "Himself he cannot save. Let the Messiah, the King of Israel, come down off that cross, that we may see and put our faith in him." And the men who had been crucified with him kept taunting him. And when noon came, darkness fell upon the whole land, lasting until mid-afternoon. Then in mid-afternoon, Jesus cried in a loud voice, "Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani," which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?" So some of the bystanders who heard it remarked, "Listen, he is invoking Eliah." So when somebody ran off, soaked a sponge in sour wine, and sticking it on a reed, tried to whether Goliath happens to take him down. But Jesus, uttering a loud cry, expired. And the curtain in the sanctuary was torn in two from top to bottom. Now the centurion who stood guard over him, on seeing that he died in this way, declared, "It is clear this man was God's son." There were also women present looking on from a distance. Among them were Mary Magdalene, and Mary the mother of James the younger, and Joseph, and Salome. These women had followed Jesus when he was in Galilee, and they had attended to his needs. And there were many others who came up with him to Jerusalem. Now, as it grew dark, since it was the preparation day, that is, the eve of the Sabbath, Joseph from Arimathea, a distinguished member of the Sanhedrin, arrived. He too was looking forward to the kingdom of God. He was bold enough to seek an audience with Pilate and request the body of Jesus. Pilate was surprised that he should be dead so soon, and summoning the centurion, he inquired whether Jesus had already died. Learning from the centurion that he had, he released the corpse to Joseph. Then, having bought some linen, Joseph took him down, wrapped him in the linen, and laid him in a tomb which had been cut out of rock. Then he rolled a stone across the entrance of the tomb. St. Mark is the only one of the evangelists who tells this tale of that detail in the arrest of Jesus of the young man who was caught by the sheet that he was wearing, left the sheet and ran off streaking into the night. There are those who speculate that because it was only Mark that gives this detail, that the young man may have been Mark himself. If that's the case, having abandoned Jesus in his hour of need, he found his way back. This, you see, is important for us because whenever the cross comes into our life, and the introit for today's Mass, by the way, Nos autem apportet gloriari, but it behooves us to glory in the cross of our Lord Jesus Christ, quotation from St. Paul. And so whenever the cross comes into our life, whether our everyday crosses that are not extraordinary crosses, sickness or bereavement, or this particularly difficult cross of having to be away from the church at this most holy time of year. We can take the lesson of perhaps Mark, that it's only when we're with Jesus that we can carry the cross securely. Ask Simon the Cyrenian. He carried the cross and Jesus was right there. All the disciples forsook him and fled, but John shows back up. And where? At the foot of the cross. And our Blessed Lady, St. Mary, knows more about crosses and more bitter crosses than anyone else has ever had to carry. She knew, too, that the closer she was to Jesus, and she was plenty close, the closer she was to Jesus, the heavier the cross she could bear, and for longer, because Jesus was helping her bear it. And so, in this time of extraordinary crosses added to our ordinary crosses, we can remember always to stay close to our Blessed Lady, St. Mary. Because if we're close to her with the cross, then we're close to Jesus. Dominus vobiscum, et cum spiritu tuo. Oremus. Custodium et Domine de mano peccatoris, et ab hominibus iniquis erige me. Orate fratres omnibus. Per omnia saecula saeculorum. Amen. Dominus vobiscum, et cum spiritu tuo, sursum corda, habemus ad Dominum, gratias et amus Dominio nostro, dignum et justum est. Vere dignum et justum est, ecum et solet reinos tibi semper quique gratias Sanctae Domini Sancte Pater omnipotens aeternum Deus, qui salutum humani generis in digno crucis constituisti, ut unde mors oriebatur, in te vita resurgeret, et qui in legno vincebat, in legno corpore vinceretur. Per Christum Dominum nostrum perpetua ex ad probatum angeli dominatio extremum potestatis, celi terumque virtutis acmeatis servum, sortes exultatione concelebrant, cum quibus et nostris voces, ut ad minti iudias et peccatorus supplici confessione dicentes, Sanctus, 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 Dominus Deus Sabaoth, plenius in celi et terra, gloria tuo, Hosanna in excelsis. Benedictus qui venit in nomine Domini, Hosanna in excelsis. to his corporate purgatory mystery. Per omnia saecula saeculorum. Amen. Oremus preceptus salvamus moniti et divina institutione formati ademus icere. Pater noster qui es in celis sanctificetur nomen tuum, veniat regnum tuum, fiat voluntas tua sicut in cielo et in terra. Panem nostrum quotidianum da nobis hodie, et dimitte nobis debita nostra, sicut et nos debitibus misericordias nostris, et ne nos inducas in tentationem, sed libera nos a malo. Per omnia saecula saeculorum. Amen. Pax Domini sit semper vobiscum et cum spiritu tuo. Agnus Dei, qui tollis peccatum mundi, miserere nobis. Agnus Dei, qui tollis peccatum mundi, miserere nobis. Agnus Dei, qui tollis peccatum mundi, dona nobis pace. Domine nos dignus tuus. Domine nos dignus tuus. Domine nos dignus tuus. Adversum me exercebantur, qui serevant in porta, et in me salevant, qui bibebant vini. Ego vero oratione mea ante Domine, tempus bene placiti Deus, in multitudine misericordiae Tuae. Dominus vobiscum, et cum spiritu tuo. Oremus. Sanctificationibus tuis omnipotens Deus, et vitia nostra correntur, et remedia nobis sempiterna proveniat. Per Dominum nostrum Iesum Christum Filium tuum, qui tecum vivit et regnat in unitate Spiritus Sancti Deus, per omnia saecula saeculorum. Amen. Oremus. Humiliari capita vestra Deo. Tua nos misericordia Deus, et ab omni subrectione vetustatis excurget, et capaces sancte novitatis efficiat, per Dominum nostrum Iesum Christum Filium tuum, qui tecum vivit et regnat in unitate Spiritus Sancti Deus, per omnia saecula saeculorum. Amen. Dominus vobiscum, et cum spiritu tuo, ite missa est, Deo gratias. Benedicat vos omnipotens Deus, Pater et Filius et Spiritus Sanctus. Amen. Dominus vobiscum, et cum spiritu tuo, initium sancti evangelii, secundum Ioannem, gloria te, Domine. In principio erat verbum, et verbum erat apud Deum, et Deus erat verbum. Hoc erat in principio apud Deum, omnia per ipsum factus sunt, et sine ipsum factum est nihil per factum est. In ipsum vitae erat, et vitae erat lux omnium, et lux in tenebre sucet, et tenebre eum non comprehenderum. Cui homo visus ad eo, cui nomen erat Ioannes, hic venit testimonium per ire est de lumine, et omnes credere per illum. Non erat ille lux et testimonium per ire est de lumine. Erat lux vera quae illuminat omnem hominum venientum in mundum. In mundo erat et mundus per ipsum factus est, et mundus eum non coniovi. In propria venit et sui eum non receperunt. Quod autem receperunt eum edit eis potestatem Filius Dei fieri, is qui credunt in nomine Deus, qui non ex sanguinibus, neque ex voluntate Patris, neque ex voluntate Filii, sed ex Deo nati sunt. Et verbum caro factum est, et habitavi in nobis, et vidimus gloriam Deus, gloriam quasi unigeniti Pater, in gratiae et veritatis. Deo gratias. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death. Amen. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death. Amen. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death. Amen. Hail, Holy Queen, Mother of mercy, our life, our sweetness, and our hope. To thee do we cry, poor banished children of Eve. To thee do we send up our sighs, mourning and weeping in this valley of tears. Turn then, most gracious Advocate, thine eyes of mercy towards us. And after this our exile, show unto us the blessed fruit of thy womb, Jesus. O clement, O loving, O sweet Virgin Mary. Pray for us, O Holy Mother of God, that we may be made worthy of the promises of Christ. Let us pray, O God, our refuge and our strength, look down in mercy on thy people who cry to thee, and by the intercession of the glorious and immaculate Virgin Mary, Mother of God, of St. Joseph, her spouse, of thy blessed apostles Peter and Paul, and of all the saints, in mercy and goodness hear our prayers for the conversion of sinners, and for the liberty and exaltation of our Holy Mother, the Church. Through Through the same Christ our Lord. Amen. Saint Michael, the archangel, defend us in battle, be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray, and do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, thrust into hell Satan and all the evil spirits who prowl about the world seeking the ruin of souls. Amen. Most Sacred Heart of Jesus, have mercy on us. Most Sacred Heart of Jesus, have mercy on us. Most Sacred Heart of Jesus,